Hello, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us through that while we figured some things out. We're excited to have you here at the Indiana Farm Equipment and Technology Expo. And we say hello to those watching at home and couldn't make it to the show today. We're live streaming today's presentation with Chad Colby. And I'm telling you, if you haven't made it here, you need to come and make it here. We've got a lot going on. We've got plenty of seminars over the next few days and a great sold out exhibitor floor. You guys agree, right? It's been good out here. Got a lot of folks to chat with. Great. Really appreciate that. We appreciate everyone being here. And again, we appreciate those at home watching. Come and see us. We're here at Grand Park in Westfield. So if you try to go to the fairgrounds, no one's going to be there. Come here instead. Again, we've got great seminars here throughout. I hope that today's not your only day here at the expo. We've got plenty of folks from Purdue coming tomorrow. And we have a market roundtable with Mike Silver from Kokomo Grain and John Zanker, Risk Management Commodities, coming up tomorrow as well. So if you can make it back, come on back. We'd appreciate seeing you. We're really excited about this next one. You know, when we talk about what we've done with this show, we renamed it the Indiana Farm Equipment and Technology Expo. We really wanted this show to focus in on the technology surrounding agriculture. Things like drones, things like your tablets, phones, everything else. Chad's going to get into all of that. And by the way, if you're interested in drones, if you didn't see the little sign, we've got one right over here, and we've got them around the show floor. You can sign up to win a free drone, and we'd love for you to do that. Again, just point your camera there at the QR code, and we'll get you signed up for a free drone. So we'll do that at the end of the show. I want to say thank you to our sponsors of the seminar stage, Bain Welker Equipment, AgDirect, and Farm Credit Mid-America. And with Farm Credit Mid-America, I want to welcome up Mr. Wilson. Come on this way, and I'm going to let him introduce our presentation speaker this afternoon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jason Wilson. I'm Regional Vice President for Farm Credit Mid-America. We're a member-owned cooperative that has been meeting needs for the farmers for over 100 years now. Farm Credit Mid-America currently serves over 80,000 members across Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And we are very excited, along with our partners at AgDirect and our friends at Bain Welker, to support events like this that align with our mission of supporting and securing the future of rural communities and agriculture. So thank you again to Hoosier Ag Today for leveraging this platform to invite everyone out to this event. For the, like you said, for the farm equipment, we just heard from Machinery Pete, and you don't really get much more better than that. For the technology, I don't know that we get a lot better than the next speaker. So with that, I would like to welcome Chad Colby.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Well, first of all, good afternoon. I'm going to throw my phone on the table there. I'd like to welcome everybody here. I think it's nice to have an opportunity again to get out and speak and talk to folks all over the place. We've got a YouTube stream on as well. For those of you watching online, welcome. I'm going to give you kind of a overview here as far as the presentation goes. You know the title. I like to break technology down into practical and disruptive technology. So as we start, my background, I would say, is very familiar to most of you. Grew up on a farming operation in central Illinois. That photo over there, I'm the little guy in the 2+2. My dad is the little guy also in the green cap behind that tractor, and that was a piece of equipment that was going to revolutionize agriculture. We were going to do everything in one pass. Like the 2+2 that we did not own, by the way. It ridiculously failed as well. But the thing I learned growing up is when it comes to technology is you've got to push those limits. And I understand that can be a challenge. My day-to-day job, as some of you know, I work in the aggregate industry in the equipment side and been working with quarries and aggregate companies around the country. And one of the pieces of equipment that we specialize in is actually to create ag lime, believe it or not. And that hand I'm holding up there with product in it, that's ag lime from a high-frequency screen. So I'm always out learning. I spend a lot of time in cabs when I can, helping friends of mine, whether it's in an auger cart or it's in an auger cart that doesn't need a operator. Got to experience some of that this year as well. I also, for the first time, got to experience a cotton harvest here just recently down in Alabama. And I will tell you, it's great to appreciate where we've been, but you also have to start thinking about what that next step is for you. I've got some videos here that are going to play that are pretty interesting. I'm sure many of you have seen it. The Fence got a combine now that doesn't have a steering column in it. And this was me running the combine actually at a media day. And I could tell you this, it's fantastic. And when you get the chance to operate one, you'll see what I mean. And I think that's the hard part about technology in our space is it's kind of hard to think that some of this stuff I'm going to show you is things you're going to actually use in the future. I'm an active pilot, have been for years and years and years, hence the kind of the drone thing, and we'll talk about that a little bit today as well. I've also had the unique opportunity over the years to experience some sides of technology that many people don't. It was a few years ago, I was the guest of NASA and their social media team, and you start to realize just how sophisticated technology can be when you have unlimited funds. When you're going to pull out the stops and what can you really do. And when you start talking about Mars and the things that are in the news all the time, do you know one of the biggest concerns they have on Mars, if not the biggest issue? It's food. Because they can't take it with them. It's not practical. It's not possible. So it's pretty interesting. And I was down at the Veggie Lab at NASA, and well, I'll tell you what, when somebody asks, do you know anything about agriculture, and you're with 50 other geeks from around the country, and not one person even knows what a tractor is. And you say, yeah, man, the NASA folks were just asking me questions like crazy. It was really cool stuff. So keep that in mind. The other main source we go for information is media. Now, I understand that in the ag space, we're pretty fortunate. Other places, well, that can be a challenge as far as getting good information from the media. This is one of my favorite slides, and I'm a pilot, so that makes it a little bit more interesting. But if you read that, live right there, okay? It says a Boeing 777 will struggle to maintain altitude once the fuel tanks are empty. Well, no kidding. And I think for a lot of us, when it comes to new technology, that's kind of our attitude. Hey, I'm not going to ever use that. I remember arguing with my father. He bought a new 1486, and he didn't spend the money to add a front wheel assist to it. And we battled so hard on that. And I remember my dad, just like it was yesterday, said, I don't care. I'm not putting on my tractor. We're never going to have front wheel assists on our tractors. Just doesn't make sense, son. Okay, Dad, you might have missed that one a little bit, okay? It's just you got to think a little bit differently. And you don't have to go too far to see examples of our struggle to adapt to technology, right? I mean, think about what those two slides are showing you right there, those pictures. It's just it's the honest to goodness truth. So let me get in the meat and potatoes of the program. So the title down there says the top 10 things. Well, you can see I took the 10 out because I'm just going to show you a whole lot of stuff here the next 30, 40 minutes. Some of it you're going to grasp. Some of it you're going to shake your head. And I don't know. I guess I see some of you guys are already drinking adult beverage, so I think you're ready for it. So let's jump into it. So again, when I talk about technology, I want to talk about practical and disruptive, and you're going to clearly see that the stuff that I show you this afternoon is going to drop in those buckets. So let's go. So I would tell you, when you start talking about what NASA's done and SpaceX and UAL and all those fine contractors, I would say this is disruptive. This isn't a sci-fi film. This happened. You're watching it live right here. It's amazing how far that's come. And I don't know if you guys know this. I'm sure there's a few aviation geeks in the room. Garmin makes a lot of that equipment that goes in the flight decks of our airplanes. Get this. Do you guys know they have an auto land feature now? Where it can absolutely take over the airplane 100% in the event of emergency. And I'm not talking about deploying a parachute and you're along for the ride. I'm talking about it doing the whole thing. Making the radio calls on the radio, controlling the engine, controlling the whole airplane. And there are airplane manufacturers that's standard equipment on right now. If you haven't seen it, it is unbelievable technology. That is here, by the way, on production airplanes. You see that guy right there. You push the big red button, and you sit back and watch. I've actually flown in the airplanes without it. You know what? It doesn't take a genius to figure out it's going to save people's lives. So again, amazing technology. As some of you know, and you'll see some slides from the 2019 edition, AgTECH is the biggest farm show in the world. There's nothing like it. I've been to the last two, was planning to go to the next one. This product you see right here just got released a couple weeks ago in terms of a concept. Controlled traffic, obviously it's got different attachments, a harvester, a sprayer, tillage, so on and so forth. That's got two 500-horse engines, it's electric drive, yada, yada, yada. This is the gold winner just recently announced from AgTECH. Now, for those of you that follow, has anybody been to AgTECH? Come on, anyone? There we go, there's one. AgTECH, there's just nothing to describe it. It's 38 acres under roof. Every manufacturer in the world is there. Takes place every 2 years. Unfortunately, due to COVID, a couple days ago, they canceled this year's one that was going to happen in March, and they moved it to November of 23, which is, we kind of figured that was coming. But anyway, just to let you know on that. But amazing piece of technology that just got unveiled here, this one here. So again, let's jump into a few more little things. Anybody recognize this photo, first of all? Anybody? Anybody a Chicago Bears fan? I'm sure there's some Colt fans in here. If you look in the upper left of that photo over there, that's Soldiers Field. And back when the World's Fair was there in the 30s, check this out. That tractor in front was a remote control tractor. So when somebody says, well, you're not going to have an autonomous tractor on my farm or a remote control one, I'm like, well, okay. We do autonomous things with drones and ground-driven submarine stuff all over the world. We could certainly do it with tractors if we wanted to. And I'm here to tell you, friends, it's already here. This isn't a technology that's a pipe dream. 2 years ago, I got invited to go see Sabanto down south of Springfield. And it's not the tractor, it's the automation put into the tractor. And that's the first time I personally saw a piece of equipment running autonomously doing an actual commercial ag job. It was an 80-acre field right along Interstate, just south of Springfield, and I sat and watched it for 3 or 4 hours in an RV, and we were out on a Ranger watching it do its thing. Listen, this stuff is here. And these folks have been advancing now to doing it a little bit different. Maybe we use smaller tractors, maybe they run around the clock, so on and so forth. There's some announcements coming out from some other manufacturers of some new autonomous stuff that's it's here. It's some level. Now, I get it. Are you going to give up the planting job to someone that's a computer? You know, I understand. But where that starts is what it's all about. And I think the first step in that process could be right here. So this spring, this should go, there it goes. This summer, actually, I got invited. This is Raven's new system. And I went out to see it. And it's a system that'll mount in any tractor to automate the auger cart. I'm sure many of you have seen it online. Hopefully, some of you have seen it in person. I can tell you it's the first time that I saw something that was fully autonomous that I went, yeah, there's guys that are they're gonna buy this. And you're gonna see some slides here when I'm in the cab, in the buddy seat. The tractor is not all destroyed, right? It doesn't have 7 different monitors in it. Obviously, it's got a few sensors on the cab there. But as far as interior, it was super easy to use. I was in the tractor and both the combine as well and went, wow, this is a thing. I mean, there are people that are going to buy this. And it's, you know, commercially available right now. So if you haven't seen this technology, this is the stuff where maybe that, you know, owner-operator goes, okay, maybe I will automate the grain cart. Now, I get it. We can all go blow holes in all of this technology. It's real easy. It's not going to unload it into the truck yet, autonomously. So the truck driver, I'm sorry, is going to have to get out and unload the tractor. So there's some hurdles here. But as far as operating it goes from inside the combine, super easy to do. So again, just some pretty interesting technology. Speaking of something else that's pretty interesting, does anybody have automation in their combine? Has anybody spent the money for automation? Did I see a hand back there? Did you got one? You got it? So right before the pandemic hit, I was at an event, and there was about 300 high-end farmers in the room. And I said, how many of you bought a combine in the last 24 months? And about a third of the group raised their hand. So we had about 100 farmers raise their hand who'd bought combines. I said, okay, in that group, how many of you bought automation? And there were 3 people that spent the money for automation. And I get it, because if you're sitting with your salesman and he says, Chad, What do you think about four-wheel drive on the combine for $27,000 or $23,000? You go, yeah, put it on there. The 1 year I'm going to need it, add four-wheel drive. And when he says, well, do you want to add automation to it? That's another $23,000. You're going to go, yeah, no, I'm not going to get that, but I'll take four-wheel drive, okay? So all that being said, if you fast forward the tape to now, most of us, if you haven't seen it personally, you need to, the automation in a combine. And what I'm telling you is when you're in corn and you're running across the field and your corn yield goes from 270 to 170 and back and forth and all the fun things that happen for those of us that run combines, the machine is automatically adjusting. And you fast forward that tape now 2 years down the road, and there's a lot of people using automation because it works really good. Speaking of other automation that's happening around us is the use of isobus. There's a lot of great equipment you can buy today that simply just plugs into the back of your John Deere 8R or your Magnum or whatever you're running, and on your screen you can operate that machine just lickety-split. These are things we just never had 10 years ago. And we kind of take it for granted because that's just how it comes. The other side of technology that's really emerging is that camera technology. Now, the automation in the combines, a lot of guys, that has camera systems inside. And if you look right here on this rogator I was running this spring, it had cameras on it as well that's guiding it down the row. And you'll see it here in just a second. There's a set of cameras out front, and it can see the corn row. John Deere has a similar system as well. You'll see that here in just a minute. And if you haven't seen the camera systems, they work so good. It's a view right here you can see on that slide right there, and it's fantastic how well that works. Has anybody used that camera technology to drive equipment yet? Man, there's got to be yeah, there you go. There's a couple hands. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Question was how big's the corn that it can see? It's pretty scary, actually. I've had it in corn that's shoulder high and it could still see. Obviously, when the wind gets blowing, that gets a little bit of a challenge if the corn's moving. But yeah, and the John Deere version you'll see right here does the same thing. And actually, the camera for that is up on the globe in the center of the cab, and it works. You saw 3 or 4 hands that raised up. I mean, I've never seen anything. It works so good. You turn the corner, hit the button, and get on Twitter because this puppy it handles it. It's really good. Yeah, it totally can. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, once the canopy gets in, there might be a few challenges there, but at this size, no question. So when we talk about cameras, you go to your local Best Buy here recently. Have you noticed in the last year they have 3 rows in the local one in Bloomington, Illinois of camera technology? And that's something too to think about. Maybe it's when you're mounting on your grain leg, maybe in your cattle barn, all those things. These cameras are so sophisticated and they work so good and they're not very expensive. So there's some great use of camera technology here that is beneficial to all of us. I don't think you're going to hear the audio at this, but I'll give you a perfect example. This fellow right here, he's got his camera on, and he notices, I'm guessing it's his dad, who left the fuel nozzle on his new combine as he ripped the hose out when he drove away. So I just thought that was kind of humorous, nice way to utilize that camera. But on the same token, there's a lot of great applications for cameras. If you're not using them, you certainly should. How about this? This feels weird to me. Have you guys noticed in your Home Depot or Lowe's lately? When I say lately, I mean in the last 12 months, you can't buy a gasoline-powered lawnmower. They don't have them anymore. And do you know California last week, in the next 2 years, it's all electric. No generators, no handheld, anything. It's all going to be electric in California. But that's true today. That's in Bloomington right there today on the shelf. Something we never would have thought about just a few years ago. And I think all of us are using cordless power tools. I get that. But the reason why I threw it in the slide deck is it's not because of the sprayer. Okay, that's pretty handy. Or that big air compressor or that little GPS deal. It's that impact right in the center. Because the power they have now, not so much maybe 5 years ago, it's really amazing in these handheld tools. And obviously, they sure make a lot of them. The other one was an aha moment for me. I had a big tree that went down in my yard. And one of my friends told me, he's like, you should get a battery-powered one. And I was like, yeah, okay. It is the smartest thing I ever did. Has anybody used a battery-powered chainsaw? You bet. I see heads shaking. If you haven't done that, that's the next tool you buy. You grab it, throw the battery in, and you got 100% of the torque. It's the best saw you've ever used. They're fantastic. I mean, you watch here, you just hit the switch and it goes, whoomp, set the chainsaw down, pick up your limbs. It's fantastic. Anyway, it's pretty cool if you haven't seen that. So obviously, when we're talking about camera systems and all those crazy things that are battery powered, it goes without saying how big and mighty Tesla is today. They haven't put all the fourth quarter numbers out, but when I'm giving you the warning, their numbers and profits and sales are just a handful of months away from competing with the big boys. That means 500,000 cars a year plus. All those things are coming from them. And did you know you can run their cars today with your smartphone? You can back your car out of the garage with your smartphone. Now, I'm not sure why we need that, okay? But it is pretty amazing to think we have that kind of technology. And when you start thinking about what that means for us in agriculture, have you seen the new F-150 that's coming? I see a few heads shaking. I'm telling you what, when they released this truck several months ago, they had an article just came out, and I understand it's a little hard to see up in the corner up there, but they've already sold out the build. They already know they can't build enough of them. There's going to be a lottery system to figure out how you're even going to get one. Why? Because these machines, electrically powered, are pretty fantastic. Has anybody drove a Tesla or a battery-powered vehicle? Anybody in this room? There's a couple. I'm going to tell you, the first time you do it, you're going to go, well, I wish somebody would have told me. I'd have done this a long time ago. Because they drive unlike anything you've even been in before. Whether that's a tractor, a bulldozer, or a car. And I've been in all three. Because you get 100% of the torque instantly. There is no lag. Now, obviously, in a pickup truck, that'd be a challenge for a guy like me. My pickup truck's 16 months old. It's got 80,000 miles on it. I'm not sure how that thing's going to stay charged. Unless I put a generator in the back to charge the battery. I mean, it just doesn't work. But, you know, I'll give you an example. Do you know that BMW has a car, a sport utility that's in the market now? You can buy it. And yes, you're going to pay 70 or 80 grand for this sport utility, full-size sport utility. Look what BMW did. They said, hey, we're going to do this a little different. We're going to leave the same engine in it that we normally run the car with. We're going to put a battery system in it that'll run 80 miles to 85 miles an hour. Think about that one. So today, for example, my pickup truck will not start because I came 6 miles from the hotel to here and back. How many of us, our spouses, drive 30 miles a day? Oh, but then you jump on the road, you got full power of the car. Okay, that's pretty cool. All I'm saying is there's a lot of things in this space that are coming, and there's some disruptive stuff too. Do you know the Ford one in that truck, you can plug the truck into your house and charge your house, operate your house if you lose the power? Okay, maybe that's kind of cool. And did you know Ford is coming out with a smaller size truck, which I have seen personally, drove one, that comes out later this year, that's $20,000. It has 4 doors and 4-wheel drive. It's in the $20,000 range. Kind of crazy. And speaking of electric, let's take that one step further. I told you I was at AgTECH the last time, and everywhere I went, they featured electric equipment. Didn't matter what brand, okay? Whether that's John Deere, whether it's the C&H team, AGCO, they were all doing it. John Deere back then, in 19, won the award for their electric drive. And you know what that electric drive fits, by the way? My John Deere guys up here I can see. Guess what that is? That's for an 8R. And that's pretty neat. And obviously, Deere's got something up their sleeve because here coming up very soon at the Consumer Electronics Show, they've got another big announcement coming. I think they're live streaming as well. I'm going to be there. We'll keep you tuned there. But certainly, with all that automation, there's going to be another level of that coming from Deere, which is going to be a lot of fun. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Caterpillar's proving grounds and run one of their dozers that operated that way. It had the same 300-horse engine, but it had electric drive. And it was unlike any piece of equipment I've ever run. And for all of you in the room that run equipment, and which is most of you, you would be completely amazed. It's the smoothest, most deliverable power. Now, I think they were recording me with the drone just because they thought I was going to make a big mess with the dozer. But I managed to hold them off at that. But I want you to understand that when they unveiled this new dozer, and you can see the electric components in the back of the final drives there, they were expecting a 60-40, 50-50 split of conventional versus electric drive from their customers. And then it flipped, meaning now the vast majority of those dozers have electric drive that they sell because the maintenance is so much better, so on and so forth. You're going to see that in our industry the next 5 years in ways you've never seen before, whether that's the drive on our feeder houses, on our combines, our sprayer final drives, all those things are going to go to electric. It's coming just because it's so much more reliable. Obviously, when we talk about tablets, you know, this slide right here drives me crazy. And rest assured, whichever manufacturer I get the honor to speak with when the doors are closed and you got to sign your name 15 places, I just give them you know what for this because this is ridiculous. And a lot of producers that are sitting here right now, you can't just put anybody in the tractor cab because there's 3 different monitors that are doing 3 different things that you forgot how to do because you haven't been in a planner for 6 months, right? We all go through these headaches. And if you're in this room and you're watching online or you're here and you're in the banking industry or some other industry and you have not been in a planter tractor or a combine in the last couple years, go get in one. Because at the end of the day, it is complicated and it's a struggle to make sure you understand it and how to operate it correctly. So I think you have to give some credit to some manufacturers that are making this a little easier. Kinsey's new monitor, you can literally plant corner soybeans in a couple button clicks. Why? Because their engineer team, they finally said, hey, go build a monitor that works like this phone. This new phone doesn't come with a manual. I could hand my iPhone to anybody in here and you could make a phone call with it. You could take a picture with it. It's not hard. That's how our monitors should be. And they're working that way. It's getting better. I get that. But there's going to be some other things that keep coming down that path of getting better. You know, does anybody in here have a smartwatch? Anybody wear one? So there's a couple of you. This is kind of interesting just for fun facts. That survey was on my Twitter account about a year ago. You can see about 60% of the people don't wear a watch and about 22% of their wear a smartwatch. And then this was a survey from yesterday. And you can see the 60% is about the same, but people are starting to wear the smartwatch more. And I'll just go down this conversation super fast, but a few years ago I was at a presentation in Florida, and it was the night beforehand, went out to dinner with a friend of mine, and I'm sitting at the table, him and his wife, and I kept looking at my watch because my Apple Watch told me to breathe. Well, obviously I was. And the fellow sitting with me, he's like, why do you keep looking at your watch? I said, I don't know, it keeps telling me to breathe. And I hit the button for my heart rate. My heart rate was 140, resting, sitting at a table, and I'm smart enough to go, well, that's probably not right. So the next morning, you fast forward, I went back to where we were staying. It was a beautiful place, and I had a big suite overlooking the ocean. I mean, I wasn't in any stress. Went back to the room, took a shower, went to bed. Got up in the morning, and the first thing I did was put my watch on and hit the little heart button because I was just curious. And guess what it was? At 140. And I felt completely fine, so I was like, well, that's probably not good. So I made a couple phone calls, went downstairs, gave my presentation, and one doctor I talked to back home said, you know, you probably ought to go to the ER. I was like, that sounds really great, but I'm in Florida. Okay. And I'm a stubborn farm kid, so I went to the airport, got on an airplane, flew back to Bloomington. It's like 9:30 at night. I'm like, you know, I wonder what we're doing now. I checked. What do you know? It's still 140. Okay, fine. So I go to the hospital, and then you guys can imagine what happens next for a couple, 3 days. And lo and behold, for some reason, my heart went into high idle. Anyway, they got it figured out, and it's been fine ever since. But one of the leading heart specialists in the Midwest came to find me before I left. Super nice lady, and she's like, Mr. Colby, we didn't believe your results, so sorry about having to run all those tests twice because we didn't believe them the first time. And I was like, thanks, it's been a real joy. And she said, my main reason I came to find you is how in the world did you know this? Because I don't think you would have felt it. And I had my watch, and she goes, you know what you should do? What do you do for a living? And I told her, so you speak to people? Yep. She goes, you need to keep telling that story. She said, because if you would have had any heart issues or any problems, that would have alerted that. So if you have any health concerns, make sure you check these out because it's a thing, and obviously people are because You could tell by that stat that more people are wearing them. So just something interesting. So when we talk about our smart devices, you guys will be proud of me. This is my first iPhone. I kept it. Little guy right here. And it does take pictures. Randy's standing back there. We turned it on a little earlier ago. Who would have ever thought the things we could do with our smartphones? And the biggest challenges I see in the farming community is, and it makes me a little tense, so I'm going to help out at least probably a half a dozen of you here, maybe 10. I'm going to go out on a limb. When you start realizing what we can do with our smartphones. Okay? I don't think it's a secret now. I think we all know that. We're all doing more business from it. That's right there in front of you. That trade cycle of phones, and I don't need to poll this group, but typically it's a third and a third and a third. There's a third of you that buy the latest greatest every time. There's a third of you that trade every couple years, and there's a third of you that need to go to the phone store because you buy them when they quit working. So that means you got an iPhone 4, 3, 7, whatever. So we all like things black and white, so let's go to black and white. Now I understand this slide's got a lot of bar graphs on it. And from where you're sitting, it might be hard to see. But what's important to realize, the top green bar is the new iPhone 13. And essentially that green bar is CPU performance. That's how fast this widget works. And if you go down to the very bottom of that page on the left, that's essentially iPhone 10 and up. So you can see from a 10 to a 13, it doubles. And if you go over to like an iPhone 7 or 8, 6, we're talking 3-4 times better in basically every category, let alone battery life and camera performance and all those things. So again, obviously today they make them in all a bunch of different sizes depending on what you like. It's a big deal. The cameras are fantastic. So if you're in the ag space and you're in that business, you heard Greg from Machinery Pete say, we're using it on TV. My technology segments on This Week in Agribusiness, we switched in about July, to be quite honest with you. That nearly all of them are done by cell phone now, believe it or not, because the cell phone quality is good enough. Now, obviously, we've got some good audio capabilities that we've got to buy to make that good enough for television. But the video is good enough, which is crazy, and it irritates the TV folks because who would have ever thought we could do this with a cell phone? When you start thinking about what's coming at us, the manufacturers are doing a great job with helping you in that regard, whether that's Operation Center or whatever it might be with John Deere, you name it, AFS Connect stuff on the case side, whatever it is, they're doing a good job with that. I'm sure many of you have seen this when you go to the John Deere App Center. If you haven't, if you're John Deere guys, this is where they house all their apps. It wasn't long ago where that didn't even exist. And see, for example, you buy a new planter, and maybe the planter's 5 years old. Maybe it's new to you. You can go there. You can download the Planter Plus app. You can go select. You'll see it right here. This video should play. There you go. This is the app I'm opening for the first time. You can go in and you can select the options on your planter in probably 30 or 40 seconds. And then the app is customized to the planter you have to help you walk through any questions you might have. Not that it's not fun reaching through that manual that's about this thick. A lot of yours are still wrapped in plastic, which I understand. But at the end of the day, you can get the information right there, which is super, super cool. If you haven't seen it, it's a great place to go. But when you're in your tractor or combine, a lot of times you got your tablet there as well. And the jump in technology in tablets in the last 4 months is bigger than we've ever seen. Ever. Period. So let me show you. Same conversation. That magenta bar at the top is the latest generation. This is the 11-inch model. The 11 or the 12 have the same internals, okay? The 12.9. This is the 11-inch one. It just clips on a tab or on a keyboard here if you need it as well. But what I want to show you with this is on this slide you see there, the magenta line's the new one. The iPad Pros are basically halfway down, and there are a lot of people sitting right here in this room that have tablets that are on the right-hand side of that column, I'll guarantee you. But I want to show you just how some of the performance gains are in real life. So you see the red arrow there, that's the newest one. The other two red arrows that popped up, that's the comparison video I want to show you. That's the last two iPad Pro models. Watch this in real time. Well, maybe. I think I just have to wait here a second. Oh, did my automation not work? Hold on. There, it's working now. So basically, the one on the right's the new model. The previous one is the 10.5. Remember, the one I'm holding up here, that's the newest one. And basically what you're looking at right here, these tablets have the same information on them. I downloaded them all the same, hooked to the same network. I'm trying to simulate this as best I can. And the device that's to the right of me up here on the stage is, again, twice as fast as these. And what I'm getting at is, it frustrates me when I see guys spend $85,000 for a pickup truck or $350,000 for a combine, and they got an iPad that's 6 years old. And the reason why is they don't know that this new technology exists. And I think that's what's important to realize today, is there is a lot of great new technology. I won't talk about it too much, but I have to mention this because I got it last week. That's 3 Apple MacBook computers. The one on the left is the biggest one. That's the 16-inch model. The middle one is the 14. Those two can have the same internals. The one on the right's the 13-inch model. And you're thinking, Chad, why do you have a computer up there? Because Apple, about a year ago, came out with their own processor. No more Intel, it's M1 processor. So in March, I got the 13-inch model because that was the only one that was available. And 3-4 days ago, I just got the new one. It's called the M1 Max. They've got a Pro version, so on and so forth. Who cares? It's a new computer. I'm with all of you. And it's not cheap. I get all that. But what I want you to notice, and I apologize because it's probably really hard to see, is down there at the bottom when you see those graphs in the middle, this is all you need to know, is the new system that is out today is about 4 times better than anything we've ever had. Wait a minute. Let me be clear. Ever. In speed and performance. It's running my presentation over here right now. It's sitting over there. I've never seen anything like it that's even close in computer power. Every magazine that's out there right now, these articles are from the last few days. They are putting it head-to-head with anything, and it blows everything out of the water that's ever been created. And I think that spoils back to that same conversation that we have about technology and ag, is it's hard to get on the horse when the horse is running so fast, right? It really, truly is. But at the end of the day, you've got to start somewhere. So my challenge to you in 22 that's coming up with technology is to try some things different on your farm. This is a good friend of mine right here. He's putting on anhydrous. Well, yeah, that's not a big thrill, except he decided to come back and put the anhydrous on RTK and then plant right into that. This is 3 or 4 years ago. There's a lot of different ways that you can try things on your farm. And especially with the craziness we have with input prices, you have to be looking at variable rates if you can. And if you're not comfortable with that, then spoon feeding your crop with nutrients. That is where it's at. And the math certainly backs that up. Shoot, he's standing back here. I remember the first time Randy and I went, it'd be a cool idea if we put some of those things and put that right next to the corn crop. And how many years ago was that, Randy? 6 years ago, 7? Not use a coulter. We took the coulter off. And that's all I'm getting at, is to try something different. It's a good friend of mine, Matt Foes. He does that as well. And I told Matt about this story, and he laughs at me all the time. But the reality is he says it's better than anything else. Farmer from Central Illinois. There's no fancy widget you're going to get that's going to fix everything. But the reality is you're not, farming the land. You're trying to grow that plant. And today you got to be more efficient than ever. And to do that, you're going to use some technology. And I love this slide. This is one that I have not been able to get rid of for a few years because it is fantastic. So Matt's corn's on the left, the neighbor's on the right. And right now you're like, go Matt, go. First of all, you can drive straight. And second of all, your corn looks pretty good. This is the same field. Matt called me and said, are you coming up here today? And I said, yep. It's like 7:30 in the morning, and I was going to see him. I said, you need a cup of coffee or something? He goes, yeah, and bring a couple cases of beer, too. It's going to be a long day. So I got there, and Matt's corn's flat. The neighbor's is standing. So I get in a combine with Matt. Oh, I need to back up a slide. Get in a combine with Matt, and we get to visiting, and he's going 1 mile an hour. The corn's terrible because it's down, except it's making 275 down. We went over, because we can, and, did a little research to see what the other corn was that was standing across the way, and it was 40 bushel less. So I think there's limits, and Matt certainly found the limit of this field. I think the reality is you've got to try some things. In Central Illinois, I've got a good friend that's been working on 15-inch corn. And when I say working on it, I mean making a real stride at it. And a lot of it has to do with hybrid selection right now. And I can guarantee all his neighbors thinks he's absolutely crazy for doing it. But at the end of the day, the yield results are there. And that's the challenge, I think, that I'm trying to get to you guys to think about. And shows like this are a great opportunity, is decide what you're going to try on your farm and give yourself a chance. Try some different things. See what those results might be. You remember when everybody laughed about these goofy big tires? Well, guess what? You can buy them on a new John Deere or any other tractor from the factory, so you know they work. They've been out for 11 years, okay? Tillage practices have changed so much. We've got to figure out a way to manage residue, and to do that, we might have to do things a little different than the way we've done it in the past. Maybe we don't need deep tillage, right? Maybe we get that crop breaking down a little quicker. Then we got to try something different. So when the John Deere dealer or Case IH dealer says, hey, I want to bring out a tool, I want you to try it, well, hook onto it and see what it does. Go put it on 20 acres. Go put it on 80 acres. Try it and see. This video right here was shot 10 days ago. A friend of mine bought a high-speed disc right there. The first time I showed him a tool like this was 4 years ago, and he just bought one. It takes a while, and you've got to try it on your farm to see if these things work. And maybe it's, maybe it's not flotation tires. Maybe it's figuring out a way to manage residue on your corn head. Maybe it's a Devastator like you see right there. There's just so many really good tools out there that maybe in the past you wouldn't even think about or consider. So I got just a little bit more here. I want to talk a little bit about drones real quick. As most of you know, I've done a lot in the drone space essentially since it started. And the reality with drones is it's complicated. I'll give that to you. It's been ugly. You can see that mess on the left-hand side of my tailgate. I was going to bring one of those drones with me, but the reality is this. And Randy's back there from Flying Ag. I appreciate him being here. This little drone right here I'm holding in my hand is the same basic size as a can of soda, weighs 249 grams, and the video footage you're going to see here in a second was shot with this. That drone is little under, what are they, little under $800, Randy? With a case and all the stuff. So watch the video that plays right here. This wind was blowing about 20 miles an hour that day. I'm thinking maybe it should start playing here. Oh, there we go. And I intentionally thought this drone was going to fail the first time I flew it. I shot it on it. This is at a quarry right here. This video footage right here, super windy, nasty day, the drone worked fantastic. And that's what I'm getting at. This technology is very available. This whole case and system is sitting right here. This is it right here. Auto takeoff, auto land, all the goodies in the world. It's $785. You're in business. Works great. It's not hard. It's got sonar. It's got all that kind of fun stuff. When you take things from there, you have to understand that there's a cost to that, but there's also been a path. This was back in 2014. We were flying winged drones that had cellular built in them in 14. And you can see the kind of white little antenna on that drone. So while it was up in the air going back and forth, it was sending the data back. And it was a challenge. I mean, there's a trailer, and you need a catapult to launch it. And, if we flew 10 fields, you might only make great maps on 6 out of 10 fields, maybe. It was a lot. Today, the world has changed. I don't have one of these on stage with me. Randy, you've got one in your booth, don't you? This is a drone from a company called Quantix, or AeroVironment. The drone's called Quantix. And it has VTOL technology, so vertical takeoff then plays like an airplane. And this is scalable, and it's military grade. This is where the industry is moving to. There's been days this past year where I flew 2,000 acres in a day of cropland with one drone. Super easy to do. The next video here that'll pop up, I was with actually Randy, and we might have been goofing off a little bit this day, but we had a lot of flying to do. So you can see we took 2 of these off at once, because what could possibly go wrong here? And it didn't, by the way. We kind of pretended like we knew what we were doing. But you can see they're both going up, and then one's going to go one way, and the one's going to go the other. And that's the thing with drones have always been is, how do you scale it? I get the practical side. I got my $800 drone. I want to go out and find some tile lines. I want to do some basic inspection stuff. That's all great. That's a given. I've been doing that for 10 years. But when you start trying to push those limits, Well, maybe I want to do stand count. Can I do stand count with a drone, Chad? That'd be the coolest thing ever. You know, the first time we did stand count stuff was probably 6 years ago, and you could get it to work pretty decent. It's getting a lot better. This video is actually from this year, and you'll see the data set pop up here in a second. I think this video is about 40 seconds long. That's flown with it. You can't fly that with this little drone because it doesn't have that kind of camera capabilities, essentially. You need a little bigger drone. You're going to fly at a drone that's about a $3,500 price point because you need the better camera. And that's essentially what that's flying at. This is the new version of that drone that's flying that now. But you'll see once it does its little 4 or 5 acre little trial there. Has anybody done any stand count with drones sitting here? Anybody? It can be done. There's some challenges that go with it, but it's coming, and I would say it's getting a lot closer. The reality is what's the practical application of that? Well, if you're an agronomist, the application's pretty good. If you're a farmer that farms 2,500 acres, I think you know if you're going to replant or not. I mean, I don't know that a drone's going to make the decision for you. Now, it might help with some inputs and some other decisions like that. It's pretty cool. You could see here once it lands, this is a screenshot of an iPad, by the way. Once it lands right here, he's going to upload the data set right from the drone. Right, this is using drone deploy, by the way. And then you're going to see here in just a minute, there you go. It's starting to populate those sectors based on stand count. Like any other technology, it's not hitting 10 for 10 right now, but it's coming. This technology is really working hard. It's pretty cool. This is basically just some more images you can see from drone deploy. All those little blue dots or the little blue circles are individual photos. The image in the middle, that's essentially like at Grandma's kitchen table where you stitch all of them together. That's an RGB, and then you got a plant health map right there. And this is at a field trial too, so you can see that pretty good. I think you're going to see more pressure, if you would, in the industry for data sets that come from drones, come from airplanes, come from satellites. That's all coming at us, and especially the analytics that go with it. And with those analytics, to me, is the next wave of technology that's very disruptive. And that disruptive technology is detection. So weed detection. There's a lot of companies that have a full court press on that, and I can't wait. So we can use the camera systems to find the weeds, tell me where to spray it, and then I'll go spray those locations. Speaking of that, you guys know that John Deere has See and Spray. You've got Weed Seeker. Weed Seeker's been around for a long time in Australia. The first time I saw it was probably 8 years ago. The farmer down there was telling me that he had a 120-foot sprayer. Let me make sure I get my math right. He spent $100,000. No, he spent $150,000 for the sensors, but he reduced his chemical bill on 25,000 acres by 95%. And it was going to take him 4 years to get his money back. That was like 6 years ago. And obviously, John Deere's done a good job. They've just brought out a system as well. I don't know if that sprayer here has it or not, but it's coming. And it's pretty fantastic. If you haven't seen it, it works pretty good. At Agritechnica, in the last time I was there, John Deere also had that. Think about that same technology now. We're going to use a drone or sometimes a sensor to tell me where the weeds are, and then I'm going to send a robot out to kill the weeds. That's a whatever you want to call it, concept for the future that's pretty real. I was at an AGCO event here just a few months ago, and they were doing the same thing with this. This is real. You know what this is? A fully robotic planter designed for replant. Are you kidding me? So I'm going to unload this out of my truck. Let me make sure I got this right. And I got a 4-acre flooded area. I'm going to go beep, beep, and hit a button, and this is going to go out, and it's going to plant that? Okay, maybe. It was pretty cool to see. I mean, that's what they were doing it with research. It's kind of neat. And then, of course, and there's one here as well. If you guys haven't seen it on your farm, this year was the first time I got to see one in person. That was actually not just doing an example spraying water. Is there are drones that are spraying crops now. And obviously the scalable side of that is a little bit of a challenge, but it's coming. Certainly coming in high-value crops. Not so much in corn and soybeans unless you've got some trials. Right now, a lot of companies are doing a lot of great trials with this, with fungicide and other things. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to give this quick little wrap-up here. I've got a little technology checklist, if you would. Just kind of high level, this is what I tell folks. You got to have a plan on your farm. You got to determine where you're deficient. Where is the next amount of money you're going to spend? And you've got to, in my opinion, you got to buy technology, invest in technology that's going to help you make real-time decisions right now. Hey, listen, I wonder how my cattle are doing. I got two choices. I can drive to the farm, walk in the barn, and check on my cattle. That's option one. Or while I'm sitting there drinking coffee at 5 in the morning, I can turn this camera on in my phone and check on the cows right now. You know what? They look pretty good. You got to make sure that the technology you buy helps you make decisions. My grandpa told me when I was a young man, I only needed to work half a day. I think this was maybe a 10-year-old or 9-year-old discussion. I was like, Grandpa, what are you talking about? Half a day? He's like, yeah, all you got to do is work half a day. And Grandpa's right. I think this morning I started about 5 o'clock this morning. I'm guarantee I'll get my half a day in today, okay? And I think most of us do in this industry. So if we can use technology to help in that regard, it's important because time is your single most valuable asset that you have on your farm, without question. At least in my opinion, anyway. The other thing I see guys do is they'll try some things, but they'll never calculate the results. The reality is you can't be afraid to fail, but you've got to try things different. The biggest tip I can give you, in my humble opinion, is if you're making a pass across a field and you're doing fertility or you're doing seeding, why wouldn't you make a pass with 30% more or 30% less or none at all so you can understand what works on your farm? The only person that's going to know is you, but you've got to try it yourself. That being said, if you got any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I always love telling this story, so I got one quick story. This was about, I don't know, probably 4 years ago now. This time of the year, I got a phone call, and I answered. It's the same phone number I've had for, I don't even know how many years, 30, 25. And it's, hey, Chad, I got a question for you. I was at one of your sessions, and you said if you had any questions, to give you a call. Hold on a second. That's how it started. Okay. He hands the phone to another guy. Hey, this is Joe. Can you help this guy? And I'm like, sure. What's up? He's like, I'm at the Apple store, and this fella's here wants to buy an iPad, has no idea what to buy. And he said, I know just who to call. And he said, I got your card right here. So we called you. I'm like, okay. I ask him if he wants cellular or not on his iPad. We go through the whole spiel, and I spend $1,500 of his money in about 3.5 seconds, right? Anyway, I hand the phone back to that guy, and he goes, I just knew I needed an iPad. I got here, and I didn't know what the hell to do, but I knew I had that card in my wallet. Have a great Christmas, and hung up the phone. I have no idea who that was, but he was from Iowa. That's all I know. So one of these days, I'm going to meet that guy. I love speaking in Iowa and telling that story. But the reality is this, and I say this because Randy's there and Eric and this Eric. There's a lot of people here that I know. If you've got questions about technology, just ask, because there's so many people willing to help you. And at least maybe can get you turned on to that other customer that's maybe tried that planter attachment or whatever the thing is you're considering. You're not alone in the technology struggle. With that, I'm going nowhere. I'm going to be around. I'll be around tomorrow. I'm going to moderate a drone panel. So if you're a drone guy, it's going to be fun. Randy will be there. The folks from Purdue will be there tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of fun. They got some crazy stuff they're working on. So I'm going to kind of bring the practical side of that conversation. But thank you guys so much. If you got questions, be careful. God bless all of you guys, and thanks for enjoying the day here in Indiana.
Chad Colby AgTECH, and Chad, where are you going, man? Okay, that's good because I don't know that he actually read the contract that he signed. It also included 3 songs. Did you know that? We've got the screen right here for karaoke. Chad seems to me like a Friends in Low Places kind of guy. So can we fire that up? Oh, no. Okay. No, we don't have it. We don't have it. Now, Chad will be back 9:30 tomorrow morning. I hope today's not your only day at the show. Come back tomorrow morning. Purdue Extension will be with him. Randy from Flying Ag, he'll be up here as well. That'll be a great conversation. A lot of good stuff coming up tomorrow on the seminar stage. We have a market outlook roundtable with Mike Silver from Kokomo Grain and John Zanker from Risk Management Commodities. We have the Purdue Center for Commercial Agriculture folks talking about keeping the bottom line black in 2022. That's going to be pretty important, I think. And Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin from Hoosier Ag Today will take the stage tomorrow afternoon as well. So we hope you come back. Please do. And we've got a little while longer here on the exhibitor floor. Go around, visit some folks, and thank you so much for coming to the Indiana Farm Equipment and Technology Expo.
There you go. you, John.